Hi. I hope everybody is good today. It's been one of those like dreary, rainy days. But this video is it's going to be very direct to the point, okay? And while our children are home from school, I see the memes where people are like, complaining about their children and the actual work, the work that we forgot we signed up for when we had children. I see a lot of that, but something that nobody is talking about right now, when you're not going to hear about it, and it kind of makes me pause and think like it's not so much of a bad thing, right? It's bullies in school. And not so much on like how to protect your own children from a bully, because my hope will be that we all know how to communicate with our children and how to get answers out of them, how to leave those like lines of communication open so the relationship can have its room, that they know that it's a safe space to express themselves. But this video is more or less for the parents who do not know or are in denial. That's what it is. For the parents that are in denial that their children are bullies. Some of your kids are bullies. Some of your only children, right? Some of your younger children, youngest child sometimes. Maybe an older one that has too much responsibility, whatever it is, right? Because I haven't seen any patterns in my own life experience that I feel like automatically contributes to a child being a bully, because they come in all forms. They come in, a form of somebody that's really just trying to be friends, or somebody that's trying to feel superior, or whatever the case may be. But they come from a very full family, right? They got tons of cousins. They got tons of older brothers and sisters. They're treated well. They have, apparently, they have everything that they need. And you wonder, like, what makes a child become a bully? Yeah, there isn't like one set answer. I know that it definitely, the thing that repeats itself, regardless of the financial demographic that the child comes from, is definitely some level of like abandonment, right? Like, abandonment doesn't necessarily mean like this child was like dropped off to somebody else to care for. It could be just like a parent that just thinks that the only thing a child needs is like new sneakers, new clothes. I work, you have everything you need. I'm talking about that part, like that parent that is not more invested emotionally. The parent that is not invested emotionally with their children, like emotionally available with their children. Sometimes it can affect children one way or another. They can be bullies, or they can just be super withdrawn. So the withdrawn part, I mean, I in my opinion, I feel like it happens at different times for girls and boys. And then like when they go through seasons of like adolescence and preteen. But those of us who are in denial that we have bullies as children, get a grip on it. You are going to pay for it at some point or another when you do not take, if you do not take an active role in ridding that out of your children's habits, right? Sometimes it could be children that are not small children. Sometimes it's like high schoolers, right? They kind of like have their own life going on. Pay attention if you have a daughter and she's a mean girl. Let's start with that, okay? Do you have a mean girl? Sometimes it kind of like started when they were younger. I don't have little girls as children. I'm a boy mom. But I do know of plenty. And I feel as if like God has spared me up to this point, right? But that mean girl, you got to pay attention to that. You got to pay attention to, that overly rough child, the overly rough son, the one that, gets some kind of pleasure out of hurting other children in play, being overly competitive. There's levels to that, right? Because I think some parents, especially if they're rearing children that are going to go into the industries of publicly observed sports, they may want their children to have that competitive edge about them, but you want them to have like well-roundedness, right? We got to think about what can we do to make sure that our children are well-rounded. But this is just a video about, parents, take heed, because eventually the children are going to go back to school. Maybe there is a healthy level of socialization going on right now or not, and it'll pick back up. But you need to make it your duty to find out. So that's going to include you speaking to the child's direct teacher, other teachers that come into contact with your children. Sometimes our kids are in half session classrooms where one teacher will, take on half of all of the curriculum for the day, and then another teacher takes on the curriculum for the day. Even if that's the case, yes, there may still be a primary homeroom teacher. You want to speak to the other teachers as well. I think it is a personal responsibility of parents to find out, like, how do you think my children, socialize in school? How do you think they relate to other children? Do you think my child participates in, causing harm to other children? Right? Do you think, if you know that your child is super competitive, you need to ask, like, do you think my child's competitiveness is healthy? It is your duty as a parent to ask those questions, and it behooves you to do so. And if you choose to not do it, then you're actually enabling in the case where something does happen and you do nothing about it. Because one thing that I know for sure is that when there are like open cases of abuse of children, of older children, in controlled environments like the daycare, aftercare, elementary school, more than likely somebody observed it. Some kids are very, very sneaky, and yeah, it's hard to pay attention to when children are wherever they are everywhere. Me personally, I think there is some level of cop-out. Okay? I know life is stressful. I know we're working these jobs. I know we are working these jobs with, like, grown-ass babies, 50-year-old babies, 50-year-old, mean girls, 50-year-old, we're working, we have our own little school, like, situation going on. But when it comes to our children, you got to think about, are you an active parent? What are they going to be remembered in society as? Right? Am I raising a little terror? Right? Is my child a terror? Do they listen to me? Is there a family member that they do listen to? Ask them, And usually if you're a mom, right? Because this is for both mom and dads, but usually if you're a mom, you usually have like a sense. Like, that's the way you saw that? You think it was okay to do that? When you start getting those kind of like signals, those little yellow flags, those little, I may need to look into that. Maybe it needs a conversation. Maybe you got to think about, what other what questions should I ask my children? Maybe there's a video somewhere on YouTube, by other women that discover that their children are horrors and terrors and bullies, okay? Just not so much to say, okay, I know for sure that my child is one, but let me explore and see if this is a concern that I need to like be aware of, right? So do your due diligence. Be honest if you yourself were a mean girl, is a bully, Are you a bully to your own siblings? Are you a bully to your spouse? Are you just a bully? Are you a bully when you're home, or you're only a bully when you're in the marketplace? So you have to think about, now, if you are a bully, you have to think, well, okay, not for the sake of like, oh, I don't want to identify as that, but are there behaviors or characteristics that stand out when you take the time to be honest and introspect that I see present in my own children? Now, if you're raising somebody that, you want them to be a free thinker and a business person in their own right, that's all fine and everything, but you want to also make sure that you're teaching them about like character, right? And morale, and respect and things like that. So have those conversations and have those conversations about, like, what does a healthy friendship look like? What does a good business relationship look like if that's within your capacity, right? You want them to shadow you. I remember when I was living in Brooklyn, I love when when these memories come back to me, right? But one thing that I remember is when I lived in Brooklyn, children could learn anything, right? That's for sure. When I lived in Brooklyn, the bodegas, or the corner stores, at the time when I lived in Brooklyn, most of, the bodegas were going through the transition, and also depending on the neighborhood. But most of the bodegas were people that were from like Yemen, like they led an Islamic way of life. Okay, these little 7-year-old children knew how to run a whole store by themselves, right? They were in a position where they're mirroring and watching what their parent is doing, and they paid attention to that. Like how did their parent communicate with somebody that they were doing business with, somebody that they were doing business with that they respected, and somebody that they did business with that they didn't respect. Okay, so to some degree, you would see that reflected again. Okay, I even have a family member too, where I saw exactly that. So I recognized it right away as that child was growing up and became older. Like, how did they relate to the people in their community or village or neighborhood or whatever the case? Because it was always, it was constantly in my sight. And it also led me to be proactive in my neighborhood when I lived in Brooklyn. And, the minute I realized that there was a challenge for me when it came to socializing my child on, where was there a reading group at? Where was there a baby group at? Okay, maybe my neighborhood doesn't have one. Then you know what? Let me just create one. So I ended up creating my own baby group at one point, and that ran for a while. And it was my own little grassroots project. And I went out and talked to everybody, shook everybody's hand, introduced myself to other mothers and things like that in the neighborhood. So it's like what's your personal campaign to make sure that your child is taking a good place in society, right? So their elementary school is a place in society, right? You got to recognize when your children are having balance and not having balance at home, and how that looks and reflects when they go out into the marketplace, into society, into school, first grade class, kindergarten, whatever. All right. So let's just be aware. Let's be responsible, because it is our responsibility. If our children are hurting other children, that is our responsibility. It is our responsibility as parents. Okay? Do not leave all of that responsibility on teachers, because some of the teachers, they don't want to be there. Some of them are just, adults that are just trying to pay their bills. They could care less about how your child functions or sees themselves in society, or if they are a responsible part of society. They don't care. A lot of educators do not care. So I know this. So when I do meet an educator that's so passionate about what they do, I make note of it. I make note of it. As you should. You should make note of it too. Okay? So thank you for listening to my chat, And, please comment below. It's okay. I would want our spaces of discussion to be safe places where, and you don't have to personally identify. You can say of a family. That's all right. Whatever. Just so it can get out, because it may help somebody else. And let's love on our children. If we are not emotionally available to our children, let's find ways of opening that up. Let's find ways of expanding on that and making sure that we are available to them. And because we want them to have healthy relationships, right? These relationships are going to guide them as they get older, for them to be able to transition correctly into young adulthood, to go on their own, to find their own way in the world, for them to want to seek and explore the world, for them to find healthy relationships of their own and healthy partners, and hopefully raise their own healthy families, okay? Whatever that family looks like, all right? And for them to, have friends, right? And not be like total introverts. And I mean, introverts have friends too, but functioning humans. All right. Have a blessed one. This is Shamrondi. I hope that you enjoyed this life design topic. And yeah, please comment below. Share this video. Share it. It may help somebody, or help somebody that knows somebody that needs the help. Okay? And like it and share it. If you have not been to my YouTube channel yet, I hope that you do come over to the YouTube channel. Put a like there. Share it. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.